Got confused. Right, I think I'm on the right one. I was rising to especially speak on Lord Strathcarron's Amendment 17. Am I making sure I'm in the right group now? Confused. Which I've put my name to. I wanted to... the amendment strenuously argues that the bill needs to make it explicit that expressing opinions about any registered HE provider, including opinions on its curriculum, governance and affiliates and teaching and so on, that will be protected by the bill. And also specifically, I wanted to look at a new challenge to academic freedom in relation to institutional values. I don't know if people saw a remarkable interview over the weekend with a couple of women, Carol Sherwood and Amy Gallagher from Tavistock Clinic. And for once, this is not in relation to the gender issues in terms of the Tavistock, but one of the women in particular refused to accept as fact a critical race theory definition of racism as white privilege. And remarkably, the people who were teaching her in front of classes said that she would be denied her psychotherapy qualification because her views were not in line with the Tavistock's values. Actually, this is becoming more a clear problem that we face because universities are signing up to third-party bodies, or their HR and management are signing up to them, which then sign the universities up to values and priorities that might well be at odds with the views of academic staff. Obviously, the infamous example is Stonewall's Diversity Champion scheme, but more recently, it's come to light that Advance HE's Race Equality Charter is having the same impact. That charges universities a fee to provide advice and training to audit the university's anti-racism strategies, themselves formulated around Advance HE's guidance, and you can get a bronze or a silver and so on certificates along the way. Advance HE encourages universities to highlight their race equality scores in their marketing, and as Arif Ahmed, lecturer at Cambridge, has been quoted a lot today, he thinks that the Charter encourages what he says is virtue signalling competition between universities. And credit to Dr. Jim Butcher from Canterbury Christ Church College, University of Kent, and the campaign group Don't Divide Us for bringing this to light. Now, the thing is that obviously all students, we can assume the vast 99.9% of students and lecturers consider themselves to be anti-racist. But the problem is, regardless, this is a very narrow version or a very particular version of what constitutes anti-racism. So, Advanced HE's training argues that the curriculum has been corrupted by Western ways of knowing, that our attitudes are shaped by whiteness. It's a version of critical race theory that actually says that inequality persists even in the context of formal equal rights, and that's fair enough. But then when it asks that question, it gives some at least contentious answers. As I say, that unequal treatment is a product of white supremacy. So the thing about this is that, of course, academics and students should be free to hold any of those views. I'm not one of those people who thinks that critical race theory should be banned from the university, especially in the context of being a champion of academic freedom. But the problem is that when universities give CRT explicit institutional backing, that means that any academic who doubts the salience of white privilege theories or disagrees with the demand, for example, to decolonise the curriculum, is not just arguing against a body of thought, but ends up arguing against their employer. And so that puts them into a very difficult position. And I think that we've just got to be very clear that you should be able to argue against your employer or these theories, and we shouldn't be in a situation where somebody's denied a qualification on the basis of the values of the university, which is imposed top-down and which you're not allowed to query. So that's one thing. I also wanted to mention some qualms I had about Amendments 15 and 16, which haven't been argued for, but they attempt to hem in a definition of academic freedom into areas of expertise and professional responsibilities. And also, in particular, Amendment 16 says that it wants to remove uncontroversial and unpopular opinions because it says in the notes they've got no roots based on evidence. I wanted to query that because I think it's very important that we have a sense of academic freedom here that's much broader than the narrow confines of one's academic expertise. Actually, the government did listen on this, and I think they'd had expertise in, professional expertise in, and they've got it out. I don't want to see it being brought back in. One of the special things about collegiate academic life is surely, in its ideal sense, that academics are given time, space and resources to think deeply about the world, and we want them, don't we, to become our public intellectuals. I think it's just very difficult to define what that professional expertise should be restricted to. So would a professor of international relations, for example, get in trouble for criticising the efforts of decolonising the curriculum in another department and fear for repercussions if, in fact, he was moving outside his expertise? So I think it's going to have a chilling effect if we accepted this. But I also just wanted to say on the controversial and unpopular opinions and this idea of, you know, where's the evidence? And sometimes, by the way, and even this came up in terms of the discussion earlier about, I mean, we basically are sort of haunted by this idea of this kind of complete lunatic, crank science person who doesn't believe in science, who's kind of, we're told, is going to have a field day if this bill gets through. But actually, it's important that science, or in any field, you don't just always have the evidence. Isn't university where you find the evidence? Isn't the push for truth where you ask questions, you come up with new ideas of truth? I mean, knowledge is not stuck in aspic. And if we constantly say that things have to be evidence-based in this way, I just was reminded of the lecturer from the University of Plymouth who tweeted, all lives matters and gender has a scientific basis. And for that tweet, he actually, and then there was an anonymous complaint, and then a second complaint. He was accused of hating blacks, women and immigrants. And he actually was threatened with a process by his university. And it was only when a barrister from the FSU got in touch that he actually was kind of let off, but he described the process being horrific, damaging to his family, his career, and so on and so forth. And the reason I'm saying that is because this idea that academic freedom should be so narrowly hemmed in that it's only based on scientific, show me your evidence approach, I think is a dangerous way to go. And so that's why I keep insisting on a very broad definition of academic freedom.